Grand Slam semi-final. That's where we're going after this break.
Now, as we welcome you down and do our little home away from home, where we have this wonderful view of these two players, Evgeny Kafelnikov, the defending champion, and the hard-hitting Magnus Norman. Let's have a look at Evgeny. Big year last year, Fitzy.
Yeah, end of the year #2 in the world, Sandy. And what an effort that was, winning the Australian Open here to kick off that year. He had a bit of a lull in the middle of the year, but came back strongly, winning his native Moscow tournament once again. Runner-up at two big ones in the States, one at Montreal, the Canadian Open, and also Washington last year. Still only 25 years of age, Evgeny. He seems to have been around a long time, and he is a workhorse. He's a machine. He plays more matches than any other player on the tour.
Yes, he's done that out of 5 out of the last 6 years. His opponent is Magnus Norman, another young man who had a wonderful year last year, one of only 3 to win 5 times. He's in elite company there with Messrs Agassi and Sampras. What a year, and he's just dropped 2 sets on his way to this semi-final, playing in his 5th Australian Open. Made the 2nd round last year and looking to go all the way in the year 2000. Man in the chair is Bruno Rabeau, just making a few repairs. Good luck with that, Bruno, as we take a break, and we'll be back with this big to Rod Laver Arena. Decision time as to who will play Andre Agassi in the final. Nice to welcome in their penthouse, I guess we can say, Alan Stone and John Alexander looking down from above. Gentlemen, welcome.
1 minute.
Thank you, Sandy. And Magnus Norman just taking his last few serves. It's a big match for him, and in some ways you could categorise it as the biggest match in his life. He's been to a quarter-final of a Grand Slam only once before, 1997 at Roland Garros for the French Championships, his first semi-final. And on form, Alan, I think you would agree that he has an excellent chance.
Yes,
not necessarily the favourite, but a very good chance.
No, I actually think he might win. He's my choice for the match. I think his lead-up form and the quality of opposition that he has beaten is clearly superior to that of Evgeny, although he's just been cruising along in the background, playing it down. All the publicity with Agassi and Sampras and Hewitt, and he's just cruising along, and he knows what it takes to win a major championship, having won the French one here last year, so he's certainly got experience on his side. But I just like the way this guy goes about it. He is a true professional. His concentration. And so for me, I think he might win this match.
J.A., your selection?
Well, I went for Kafelnikov last year to win the event, and on day 1, I might point out. And so I've got a little bit of a sentimental spot. I feel I owe him something, and I think he has been playing well. He didn't come into the tournament with great form, but I would favour him in this match.
Fitzy?
I'm taking Kafelnikov. I think he's been there before, Sandy. He's won the title. He feels very much at home. This is a new experience for Magnus Norman. And I think Evgeny is peaking at the right time.
He's like a racehorse. He appears to have timed his run, doesn't he? Making short work of Elanui, despite going to a tiebreaker in the 3rd. So here we go. The 2nd semi-final is about to commence with the defending champion, Evgeny Kafelnikov, to take up serve.
Kafelnikov to serve. Ready? Play. 15 love.
They played 4 times in their careers. It's 3-1 for Kafelnikov.
15 all.
But importantly, Norman won the last time they played, which is at Long Island last year on hard court. So I think that's the stat that he'd be remembering. think also that Kafelnikov's going to get the crowd support, apart from obviously the Swedish supporters, but Evgeny didn't really endear himself to Australia in the Davis Cup semi-final last year.
Well, the second serve of Kafelnikov has been put under question before in his career. And he hasn't served as many double faults, I think, in this tournament as you may well expect from him. But that one a little short and not a lot on it. 137 Ks. Norman attacked it.
Advantage Kafelnikov.
Evgeny holds serve.
Again, Kafelnikov. First game.
Well, the Swedish fans were so supportive of Magnus in the stadium when he accounted for Nicholas Kiefer. And I'm quite sure they're going to be growing by the game here this afternoon.
Well, I think Norman will be losing a lot more nervous energy than Kafelnikov. You can see how relaxed Evgeny looks.
Thank you.
And that's because he's been here before. This is not a new experience for him, and that helps in some ways.
The number 12 seed serving to the number 2.
Lot 15.
Norman lost the first set against Nicholas Kiefer in the quarterfinals. Took him a little while to settle down in that match, so maybe looking at the similar opening here from him.
Lot 40.
Yeah, good call, Alan. He looks a tiny bit tense, doesn't he? He hasn't found his rhythm yet.
Net. First service.
Evgeny's got the early break.
Again, Kafelnikov.
Made a lightning start against Christoph Rokas. A lightning start against Elanui. And now he's looking to do the same thing here.
Evgeny's done that quite a bit throughout this championship. He's played from the back of the court, and sometimes when he sees one of his drives has caught his opponent off balance, makes that very quick move to the net. That time maybe a little hesitant. The ball had dropped too low for him to do much with the volley. Magnus Norman really unsettled at this early stage in the semi-final, finding his rhythm and tempo from the back of the court.
Well, it's a sign of a classy player, isn't it, when you can make an opening like this in a big match and look so relaxed and look like your work rate is not that high yet. Just playing within himself, Kafelnikov, just doing all he has to do at this stage of the match.
Looks pretty windy down there, Fitzy.
It is a bit gusty.
Wait, please. All right, piece of paper. No, just me.
I tend to think that Kafelnikov's second service toss gets a little low at times, and sometimes maybe the wind will affect that.
He's made a very solid start, though, hasn't he, the defending champion? He's taken the first 3 games. The first 10 minutes, he's taking the opening 3 games. Magnus Norman, just a little slow to settle, as he was against Kiefer. Let's see what he can do now with his serve to come.
White, please. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, it takes a long time for the patrons to take their seats. If they've missed the opening, they've got to wait 3 games before a change of ends, and then we get a huge rush of people coming in.
Second service. Lot 15.
Even then, Magnus Norman looked hesitant, tentative, playing the ball not with the same power and precision, confidence as he has to this point.
Well, he's not timing the ball too sweetly at the moment, though, Magnus, is he?
Well, playing a semi-final of Grand Slam shouldn't be too big a bother to him. 1997, December 1, he had 5-hour heart surgery to correct an irregular heartbeat. Turned up here a few weeks later and played in the Australian Championship. That's tough.
He's not forcing the issue either, Norman. He's
15-14.
tending to stay back and wait for Kafelnikov to make the move. Needs to get more aggressive, I think, here, or he's going to be in a very big hole shortly. 2 more break points. And that's the best serve we've seen from him so far.
And the quickest by some margin. Still 1 break point. Well, he's just about buried himself in this first set.
The Australian Open, brought to you by Ford, Cadbury Ice Cream, LG, Life's Good, and AAPT Smart Chat.
4-love to Kafelnikov. Can I just say what an honour it is to be sitting next to a champion, the over 35s champion here with Darren Cahill.
You can't help yourself, can you?
Well done. Well done. Kafelnikov, 4-love.
That was a pretty smart shot, Jay, wasn't it, to give him a lob there when he's struggling with his confidence and timing, and he worked his way forward, and Kafelnikov on that last break point, rather than go for the pass, just threw up a high lob and further, well, just accentuating that he's tense. He just totally mishit the smash.
30.
He seems a bit sluggish, doesn't he? Like it is tension and it's really hampering his movement. I'm sure that affected him on the overhead as well, Stoney.
Yes. Can I change my tip?
Early days, yeah.
Yeah, no.
Wild, isn't he? That's he's just not missed like that at all through the tournament.
Left for service.
You'd think now that mentally he probably would just about concede this first set, and you think he'd be able to loosen up and go for a few more shots. Sometimes it can affect you in a positive way.
Well, the way things have been going for Magnus to this point, it'll be hard to tell if he's just conceding.
40-15.
But I do get the feeling that he'll pull things together in the second set. He's not trying to continue like this.
Game continues.
This is a very breezy start, though. Kafelnikov, maybe looking for somewhere to hide, just cooling down, because this has been a very, very hot start by Evgeny Kafelnikov. 25-year-old who finished number 2 in the world last year.
Notice Kafelnikov changing his shoes at that end change. If I was him, I wouldn't be doing anything different, Jay. I mean, everything's going perfectly.
Keep the shot running exactly as it is. And Magnus Norman now needs to just establish himself at this end of the first set. Would be worthwhile if he could at least get on the board. Probably just as importantly, if he could establish himself in a few long points and start to find his rhythm from the back of the court.
30.
First ace for Magnus. And putting a bit of speed behind it too. What a difference it makes with the first serve working.
Yeah, and where's that backhand been hiding? That's a dangerous shot from Norman.
Coach Frederick Rosengren. Something to cheer about.
When he gets that ball inside the baseline, he can really hurt you with it, Norman. And he's been missing a few and playing it a little tentatively so far. Maybe now he'll open his shoulders and really have a crack at it. He's a smart player, this man, though, Kafelnikov, and you can bet he's done a lot of homework with Larry Stefanki. They know the weaknesses here of Norman, and I bet he hits a lot of balls away from the big Swede, makes him change direction.
That started to look more like the Magnus Norman we've seen against Leighton Hewitt, Jonas Bjorkman. He's played so solidly from the back of the court with real weight on his forehand. He's been able to dominate from the back of the court with that weapon. Tennis is one of those funny games. You can only play as well as your opponent lets you, and maybe it's the power and the consistency of Kafelnikov that hasn't allowed him to get set and generate the pace that he has been in earlier rounds.
Two set points for Kafelnikov. He needs only one. Magnus, I don't think, is at all pleased with the decision. The set is over, and that was a very clinical performance. He's won a couple. Magnus Norman serving now to start the second.
Well, this is a key game for Norman.
15-11.
He must get into this match, and it must be right here early in the second set. Oh, another mishit.
Oh, he's just not getting to the pitch of the ball, Alan. He looked so flat-footed. He had to move forward to that one. It was dropping short, and he just waited for it. And by the time the ball got to him, it was right about as low as his shoes, just too low.
Again, not up to that ball. Allowing it to drop, trying to nurse it into play and just pushing it along.
Well, the first suggestion I'd make is to move your feet, big fella. Get into position. It's dangerous, isn't it? If you run too wide to get that forehand and you don't do enough with it and get your opponent stretching enough, a player as good as Kafelnikov, this is where he doesn't get the ball far enough away from Kafelnikov, and he leaves a huge gap.
2 break points. Kafelnikov annoyed with himself. He could see it sitting up and he pounced on it, but just dragging it into the net.
He's certainly aware when a big point arrives, Yevgeny. You can see his intensity level go straight up.
Gary Stefanki could be very happy with his charger at the moment. A break in the opening game of the second, and here's how he dominated Fitzy the first, and he did dominate it.
He really did. He's got every shot in the book, Yevgeny Kafelnikov. But I would say that that forehand is his favourite. He hits a lot of winners, prepares very early when he gets time. And today, serving very well also. But the forehand, I think, in the first set was his major weapon.
22 minutes, and he took it 6 games to 1. An excellent performance from the defending champion.
15 left.
Well, Stoney, he's going to have to pick it up very soon, mate, or this could be a rout. He just looks like he's completely out of touch.
Yes, he just put his hands over his eyes there. I think he just thinks it's just a nightmare.
Troubled by the sun that has just made an appearance. Kafelnikov with that ball toss. And it was low.
Definitely low.
It's not making the same contact, excuse me, Fitzy, on that backhand. That was just guided. It wasn't really hit, as he's been hitting all throughout this tournament. Hesitant, feeling for the ball.
And the winners continue to flow from the racket of Yevgeny Kafelnikov. 6-1, 2-love.
Magnus wasn't at Darren Cahill's Bucks night last night, was it? No?
Perhaps he should have been, Alan.
A very fair question.
Let's see if he can get on the board in this second set. Serving at love 2.
Well, at least he went for that in the middle of the ball. He just didn't clear the tape. But I think he has to persevere and keep going for his shots. He has to hit himself into form here. And boy, all Kafelnikov is doing is keeping the ball in play.
Well, that time he tried to correct the error of into the net when he's been going down the line, and he just leant back a little, opened the face a bit more, but not enough topspin, so he overhit it.
Love 40.
Now he looks like he's just completely lost confidence, JR.
He really does. It's like some of the players earlier in the first week when they were coming to terms with the fast conditions, the light balls, and they couldn't keep the ball in play. They moved to tighter restrings. That's what virtually all the players have done, having their rackets strung very tightly to maintain control. These light conditions.
Winners have been few and far between. There's his coach, Frederick Rosengren. who was a long-time coach of Jonas Bjorkman, who he beat on the way here in straight sets. His run too has been considerably tougher than Kafelnikov's. Bjorkman, Hewitt and Kiefer, his last three. Let's hope he didn't play his semi-final early, but it's looking ominous at the moment. Kafelnikov breaks yet again. Moment by that scoreline.
Thank you.
Magnus Norman having a huge battle in these opening two sets against this man. Yevgeny questioning it.
15 love.
Well, the 4 times they've played, the matches have been close. Kafelnikov won in Halle in 1998, 7-6, 6-2, 7-5, 6-3 in Basel, and in 3 sets. Paris indoors, 6-4 in the third, and then Norman won 3-6, 6-3, 6-1. So the easiest set, 6-1, has gone to Norman up until today. It's totally contrary to previous form, and there, penetrating drive by Kafelnikov, and Magnus just unable to get in a position to have a serious go at the forehand.
Well, play a poor drop volley or half volley on this surface, you're dead. I don't think Kafelnikov could believe how easily he's winning this semi-final.
The frame again.
I'll tell you who would be happy with this form would be Boris Yeltsin, who sent him a telegram when he reached #1 last year. I'm sure it would have made for interesting reading.
Well, I just wonder, Sandy, whether Norman, who played Kiefer in the evening, as Larry Stefanki looks on very confidently, there's a good shot. But I just wonder whether, Jay, you're right in the fact that he played his previous match in the night. The conditions are different. Here in the day, the ball flies a bit more. It seems faster. The ball's quicker through the air because of the lighter and hotter temperatures.
I think he's only played the one night match, though.
But it was his previous one, and the conditions are heavier. I just wonder whether now it seems faster. Maybe it's probably got a lot to do with the opponent, I'm sure.
Could be the first time. The sun might be throwing him off too, Fitzy.
Well, he's got all these Swedish supporters here waiting just to really get behind him, but he's not been able to do much for them at this stage. I mean, they're a big bonus for the Swedish players in tight matches.
Well, shots like that have been a matter of course in the previous rounds. So now at 40 love, maybe this is where Magnus begins his match.
Well, he's on the board, but he's got to pump himself up. Kafelnikov. Royal Botanic Gardens straddle the Yarra and come in on this wonderful sporting complex. Rod Laver Arena. It's Yevgeny Kafelnikov's arena at the moment. He's allowed his Swedish challenger just 2 games, and he is serving now at 4-1 in the second.
Well, that's a sound we're hearing a bit.
Yes, it's been a long time, I think, since we've seen a player of this, well, this talent miss-hit so many balls.
Yes, remember, he did finish 1999 ranked 15 in the world.
And along the way, Alan won a career best 44 matches, so he had a magnificent year. And then followed that up with a win in Auckland. That sound again. Just can't find the middle of the racket.
Well, I know Neil Fraser used to say, when he was sitting on the chair in Davis Cup matches, Sandy, he'd say, you've got to have happy feet, happy feet. And that meant that we were maybe a bit sluggish, not moving our feet, getting into position enough. And I guarantee you that's what Fraser would be saying to Magnus Norman now. He's not in position. He looks slow.
Tall and bulletproof at the moment, Yevgeny.
Of course, with Fitzy, it was big, happy feet.
We were waiting for a comment from you, J.A. We're surprised it took that long.
Well, I asked Alan if it was all right if I said it.
Look at those unforced errors. Kafelnikov is just 1 game away on the second set.
And he's done that with barely raising a sweat.
I think you can only suggest that the occasion's just too much so far for Magnus Norman, you know, that he's just so nervous and so tight that he just can't move his feet, wrapping the ball around the frame.
You said it, Alan.
That is, with an old-fashioned racket, that would have been just about an air swing. Right off the bottom edge of the frame.
I think it's back to the coaching manual there for Freddie.
Every time he tries to hit the ball near a line, he misses it by an unusual margin.
The serve percentage winners. Very good for Kafelnikov.
Sandy, what I find interesting is that Norman has had all of his tournament wins in smaller types of tournaments. In the Tennis Masters Series, which are formerly the Mercedes Super 9, the biggest 9 tournaments on the ATP Tour, his best result ever is a 3rd round. And he's never been to a semi-final situation before in a Grand Slam, so it's really a new experience in a big tournament for him, and it just seems to have overwhelmed him in this first hour, 45 minutes.
Maybe a point like that will help him loosen up. brings up set point for Kafelnikov. Saved with only his second ace for the match.
Advantage Kafelnikov. Juice.
There's a good point from Norman.
Well, that was commonplace previously. That aggressive ground stroking from the back of the court off both wings.
Advantage Norman.
Solid, heavy hitting from both sides and then coming to the net.
Norman wins his second game of the second set. When we come back, Kafelnikov will be serving for 2.
You're right about that, Sandy. You're the center of attention when you're in a semi-final of a Grand Slam event and you're on a big stadium court like this Rod Laver Arena. Every eye in the building is on you and your opponent. Nowhere to hide. You have to find a way to lift your game and start playing better.
Kafelnikov will serve for the second set.
You know, there's nothing like experience, though. Kafelnikov has been here before. He's won at this level, and he's handling this situation better at the moment. Norman has to learn fast.
That's better. A glimpse of the Norman we've seen in the past week.
Improvisation here, going with the slice backhand down the line and showing excellent control and touch.
And that lack of fleetness of foot is really accentuated here, isn't it? He comes back into the court. Kafelnikov wrong foots him, and he has no chance to change directions and get back to that ball.
Just a scramble for him, isn't it?
I give some credit to Kafelnikov too, because he's a smart player, and he is really hammering home the advantage here against maybe the weakness of Norman that he's worked out, keeping him off balance and making him change directions a heck of a lot.
That's just too good.
What a way to bring up 2 set points.
40-15.
He uses only one. Not only has he been a winner here, he's been twice a quarter-finalist, Yevgeny Kafelnikov. Kafelnikov is in full flight here at Rod Laver Arena over Magnus Norman, the Swede, being allowed just 3 games in the opening 2 sets. And Magnus somehow has got to try and get back into the match.
Now, it's not the easiest thing for Yevgeny if Magnus all of a sudden starts to play like Magnus Norman.
Maybe he is.
To then pick his game up to that tune.
Yevgeny querying that, but let's go back, Fitzy, to the second set. Again, pretty much one-way traffic.
It really was, and there was still a few errors from Norman. That was an error. Didn't hit that lob anywhere near good enough. But Kafelnikov just doing enough in this match so far. He hasn't been pushed, and he's not trying to play too well. He's just doing all he needs to do to win these sets. And occasionally he'll come up with one of his classics.
Second double fault for Kafelnikov.
And good to see Norman after that double fault jump up and down and move across. Bit of positive body language. Get on his toes. Happy feet.
2 doubles, 2 aces.
Good jamming serve there. Well, I think he saw Norman heading that way and just tried to hit it a bit harder and a bit wider, but that was really a bad miss. Probably the first poor shot that he's played in the match.
Well, that sums it up, doesn't it? He worked that point pretty well there, Norman, and he was presented with possibly his favourite shot where he was a metre inside the baseline. And this is where he attacks his backhand and misses it. No explanation.
One game.
Just got to somehow, Sandy, keep holding on to his serve here early in this third set.
First serves in and first serves won for Yevgeny Kafelnikov. A pretty good percentage of 81%. Very different story for Magnus Norman.
15 love. all. $30-15.
Well, it's like hitting it against a brick wall for him, isn't it?
That last backhand of Magnus Norman, just an amazing miss. Went outside of the doubles tram line, this two-handed backhand. And that is strange to miss a ball by that width. That's about 7 feet wide of the extremity of the court. He knew at the moment he made contact. Disgusted.
That brings up what has become somewhat of a pattern. Another break point. Chance for Kafelnikov to take a total stranglehold on this match. If he hasn't already, well, he certainly has now because he's got the break. This crowd cannot believe it. Kafelnikov standing at 81%. We look at Magnus Norman, considerably less at 66%. But I mean, it's more, not necessarily the serve, unforced errors and the pressure.
I think so, Sandy. Not so much the serving. Kafelnikov's percentage a little better, yes. But it's off the ground where Norman is really struggling. And like Jay said in that previous game, he missed balls by a long way. For no particular reason, seems to be just completely mistiming his ground strokes and has no confidence at all. Kafelnikov just doing enough to win. That's all he has to do.
Well, perhaps a change of tactics moving forward there. He's not the most natural of volleyers, Norman. He's got to try something.
We talked about the unforced errors, 35 to Norman and 11 from Kafelnikov.
Got an old ball, did he say?
Yep.
It might have been still there from the previous match. Might have been behind the ball guard.
To have 6 balls after 7 and 9. 2 balls, 2 games is allowed for the hit up.
Love 15. Now the first glimmer of hope for the number 12 seed.
Love 30.
Well, amazingly, Norman went just to play a safe push back into the middle of the court and missed that as well.
Defensive prod, yeah.
And gazed up at Freddie Rosengren as if to say, what the heck is going on here?
One of his better returns, Magnus. He's really just can't take a trick. So they finally hit one in the middle of the strings, and we've got to play a let.
White, please. Thank you.
Well, again, the footwork just not quick enough there to move into position to hit that one, the off one down the line. And Fitzy, I mean, I'm sure you're right, his lack of movement is really hurting him here, because he's got to get into position to hit these big ground strokes, and he's just too tense and he just can't move freely. That's his first break point of the match.
Yes, Kafelnikov, on the other hand, has had 11. Taken advantage of 5 of those. Well done. That may do the trick. That may be the spark.
As soon as he went to take a big swing at that backhand, my heart was in the mouth for him.
Well, I think it's a relief for everyone in this stadium, Jay, including us, and particularly Magnus Norman, that this one finally comes off, because he's capable of hitting that shot. We've seen it this whole tournament, but that's the first time today he's come up with a big one at the right time.
He doesn't have a twin brother, does he, Fitzy? This can be a hard thing for Yevgeny, because he would have been conditioned over the past hour to be expecting a very easy match. If all of a sudden he's really got to gear up and he is confronted with a very tough Magnus Norman, it might not be the easiest change for him to go through.
Just too short in the rally there. Just too easy it was for Kafelnikov to come forward.
59.
That one there, and then a simple put away. playing a little bit more consistently and winning that baseline duel. He hasn't done that very often. Standing a little wider to serve.
Well, important that he consolidates that break back, isn't it? Has to continue the trend here, Norman. And maybe, just maybe, now we're seeing a bit of timing creeping back into his game.
And there's the immediate answer from Yevgeny. Still a point for a 3-2 lead to Norman.
Cam Norman.
Ace number 5 brings it up. So it looked as though it was only going to be one man, Yevgeny Kafelnikov. But Magnus Norman is starting to show the form. We saw him knock out Bjorkman, Hewitt and Kiefer, one after the other. It's Kafelnikov serving. 2-3, third set.
Well, he's been given a free point here at the start of this game. And if he's going to make a move, this would be a real good time.
Maybe Magnus Norman has taught Yevgeny how to do one thing. How to hit the ball off the frame.
Well, the noise starting to pick up a little bit down here. The crowd sensing maybe a slight change.
Magnus realizing that was a big chance. He's starting to get his competitive fires burning.
Well, you could never encourage the racket leaving the hand, can you, Jay? But you're right, at least maybe the fire's starting to burn now. He needs adrenaline.
Not graphite on the ball.
A good serve, though, into the body at 30 all, just as his opponent is starting to threaten a little. So certainly using all his experience here, Kafelnikov.
Norman testing him on serve, but unable to go far enough. All locked up at 3-all, each with a break in this third set. Still the body language doesn't look good for Magnus Norman. A mixture of disappointment and frustration. Big game for him here. 3-all.
He's playing to a different tempo now and intensity. Did miss that last backhand, but his whole movement during the point far keener.
You know, John, when he's missed his first serve, he has only won 30% of the points when his second serve is put into play. What a shocking stat that is for him.
Kenny can't believe how many balls he's now framing.
It's catching, isn't it?
All frames in an art gallery.
He is a good fighter, though, this man. He really does concentrate hard. Freddie just, well, hoping that maybe things are going to turn around. But he's not going to chuck in the towel.
He better not. Semi-final of a Grand Slam.
Well, it's been done before when players have lost the plot a little.
He's an all-court player, isn't he, Kafelnikov? He's a thinking man's tennis player. He picks exactly the right moment to attack the net here. He gets Norman off the court and stretching. Norman has to chip the ball, and like a flash, Kafelnikov moves in for the kill.
And that might be one thing that he does better than anybody else. He volleys from the mid-court with real authority.
Unrelenting pressure being poured on by Kafelnikov. And it brings up another break point.
Well, he's really in trouble when he has to chip the ball, Magnus Norman, and not much on those chips, just sort of hacking them back, and then Kafelnikov in for the kill.
Again, a disappointing way. Magnus Norman coming to the chair, anything but a happy camper. Now out of it. Kafelnikov serving 4-3.
late move in from Kafelnikov.
Magnus done this a couple of times, realizing that Magnus is making Yevgeny's making a late move, and just a nice controlled ball, accurately played down the line, does the trick.
Both of these players pretty big men. Kafelnikov 6'3", or 1.91. Magnus Norman 6'2". Kafelnikov's looking the quicker at the moment.
Well, that's a good wide serve that draws a short return. And Kafelnikov really has directed traffic right from around the baseline. He's really been pushing Norman around the entire match. Same thing.
Well, he really has exploited Norman's movement, hasn't he, Kafelnikov, today? And I would say for Norman, a better type of court for him would be a slower bouncing court to give himself time to get into position. Anything fast, and a good player can exploit that. Shows how well he's done to make the semi-finals here on this fast surface.
So it's up to Magnus now, serving to stay in the match after Kafelnikov produced his fourth ace at the mild pace of 169 Ks. Down 2 sets and serving at 3-5, Magnus Norman. Second serve at 139. Again, no trouble for Kafelnikov to guide it for a winner, and now within 2 points of the match.
Well, that's when Norman's at his best, when he has time to get into position and use his heavy ground strokes. This one a very simple shot by his standards, and he puts it away beautifully on this occasion.
Ace number 6.
14-13.
More importantly, game point.
Game Norman.
He's hanging on by a thread, but when we come back, Yevgeny Kafelnikov will serve. For that was the end nigh for Magnus Norman. Kafelnikov will be hoping to put this one away and start thinking about Andre Agassi. There's his coach, Larry Stefanki.
Point please, ready to play, thank you. 15-11.
Well, this is a day that Magnus will have to learn from. Not what he'd hoped for an experience out here in his first semi-final of a Grand Slam, Sandy, is it?
Certainly not. Ace number 5 for Kafelnikov.
You've got to give him credit. He keeps trying, and he must be terribly dispirited to be in this predicament.
15.
Magnus hangs on.
30 all.
While there's life, there's hope, but he's still trying a good backhand volley. Not a bad attempted pass for Yevgeny on the full run. So it's 30 all. Kafelnikov serving for the match.
Point, please. Point, please.
So he's right to play Andre Agassi.
If he wins here, that'll be the top 2 seeds in both the men's and the women's through to contest the finals on the weekend. And he's got match point.
Not only that, the top 2 players at the end of 1999. Agassi 1, Kafelnikov 2.
Thank you. First sets.
Kafelnikov is in his 2nd straight Australian Open final. An emphatic victory in straight sets over Magnus Norman. Who would be absolutely shattered by his performance here today, but as you've said, Fitzy, it's part of the learning process for him. It's a big scoreline though for Yevgeny, isn't it? 6-1, 6-2, 6-4 as we take a break.
It seemed so easy for you in the first 2 sets. Is that the way it felt today?
You know, I expected to have a tough match, first of all, and you know, day before, yesterday, I mean, in the evening, I took a good look on Magnus' game, you know, went through my note in the book, and I prepared myself for the long match. That's why, you know, I was focused from the beginning of the match and didn't give a lot of unforced errors. That was the, I think, key to the victory.
So you've qualified to play Andre Agassi. There's the final matchup. Evgeny, did you see any of last night's match? I mean, the whole town's been talking about it.
Yeah, I felt like Pete, you know, had his shot, especially in the 4th set when he had a couple of break points in the early stages of the 4th set, and he slipped away.
You changed your shoes at 5 love today. I mean, maybe Magnus should have changed his. He had trouble moving. Why did you change?
I started running a lot faster than I did in those five games in the beginning.
I thought you were travelling pretty well with that. Why did you change?
Actually, the sole started falling apart, and that's why I brought, you know, fortunate enough to bring my 2nd shoe and was able to change it.
Did it feel different out there today? We've got sunshine today, the roof is open. It seemed to be very different conditions to early in the week.
God damn it, I played 3 matches indoors, you know, played the 3rd round, 4th round and the quarterfinals indoor match, and today I felt it was completely different condition. I was struggling with the wind factor.
You beat up on Swedes here pretty well, don't you? Enquist and now poor old Magnus.
Well, I wouldn't mind winning one more match here in this tournament.
It's a big match. I mean, against the #1 player in the world. It's 1 versus 2, which is pretty exciting, isn't it?
Well, especially when you had match yesterday like Peter against Andre. I mean, I will take a lot of responsibility to not disappoint the fans on Sunday. To give a big battle to Andre.
I think finally last year you said you went fishing and played a bit of golf to get your mind off the final.
I did yesterday, so I'm going to do the same thing tomorrow.
You're going fishing tomorrow?
No, I'm going to go golfing.
Golfing?
Fishing, yeah, it's weather a little bit cold.
Well, good luck. Good luck, Yevgeny. Well done. It's been a wonderful run yet again, a magnificent performance, and we wish you all the best. What could be a classic final on Sunday.
I hope so, I hope.
Good on you. Yevgeny Kafelnikov, who's got through again, and what a match. You look pretty happy. And why not? Terrific stuff. We'll take a break. Back